But let's go, first of all, before we do anything else, to William Clouston, leader of the Social Democratic Party. William, a very, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
So, here we are. We've launched ourselves at the new kind of parliamentary session, first Prime Minister's questions since the summer break. I can't say it's going to be very good news for Rishi Sunak. He doesn't have much to bat with. If he was sending him out to the crease, it would be almost as though he was a sort of schoolboy player facing Shane Warne.
Yes, but he's the author of his own difficulties.
Yeah. And also, I fully actually accept that you would never compare Shane Warne and Sir Keir Starmer, would you?
That would be unfair, wouldn't it? Yes, yes. That's
but you know what I mean.
A total misalignment of ability. Yes. Yeah. No, he's got real problems. Sunak, he's made these 5 pledges. He's unlikely to achieve any of them. Actually, he may be lucky on inflation. We'll just have to wait and see. But the others were very foolish. When he announced the pledge on stopping the illegal migration in small boats across the Channel, I was pleased, but I thought, well, is he not telling us something? Because there is a basic way of stopping it, and he's not doing it. You've got to stop incentivising and rewarding people with the right to permanently stay in the UK if they get here. It's quite simple. You shouldn't rely on France or Rwanda or any other place. The British authorities should do it, and you have to get out of the post-war protocols to do it. But he's in a mess. I mean, I'm hearing, speaking to Tories and other people are now, so I spoke to a senior Tory last night, actually, who said that they're thinking about having an early election because it's only going to get worse. You know, if they wait till October or November next year, they'll get absolutely slammed. I think they'll get beaten anyway. Yeah. But, you know, people are talking, honestly, Mike, about a May election now.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose there was some hope, even just in the early part of the summer, sort of back end of June, that the Labour Party might not be able to get a massive majority. That, you know, even though Sir Keir Starmer was leading in all the polls by 20, sometimes 30%, he might just be able to get a narrow victory, which would mean he would literally have a minority government, and he'd have to go, you know, bill by bill, or he'd have to find some kind of coalition partner, which the Tories, I suppose, would have considered to be a reasonable result. But I guess if they think it's a lot worse now, then maybe they should do it sooner.
Well, it's worse, and it's going to get worse. That's the key point. On any of the major metrics, things don't appear to be looking rosy. So it has the flag. We're old enough to remember. This has the feel of '97, doesn't it? You know, where you have a Tory administration goes right to the end and gets beaten. To be fair, obviously Blair was I profoundly disagree with what Blair did to the country, but Blair was a very, very able politician, and he got a massive majority. I mean, Starmer isn't in the same class as a politician, and his major problem, Starmer's problem, is that he doesn't know what he believes, and therefore he changes what he says weekly almost. So, but you know, which
must reveal, surely, William, that he doesn't actually have many convictions. I know when he speaks, he tries to make out that he does, but if he changes his mind as much as he does, then what are we supposed to think that he believes in?
No, I think that's the real problem. I think that's the problem with Starmer. It's worse than people think. I don't think he has any idea how to solve the country's problems. He takes a very cautious line, and he ratted on all of the pledges he made when he became Labour leader. You know, some of the pledges which I would agree with on railway nationalisation, utilities and so on, and housing, he just basically ignores them now. So a lot of that agenda's gone out of the window. And, you know, anyway, for the public, they'll be pleased to know that the SDP plans to, you know, field well over 100 candidates, and so there will be a sensible left economic programme to vote on.
And do you have any sort of realistic likelihood of getting a seat or two?
We've got this electoral deal in South Yorkshire with Reform, which should yield certainly some results, because we're fighting the South Yorkshire together, but in the separate seats, obviously. But no, I think we're going to be realistic. You know, if we get 100,000 plus votes across the country, that's adequate progress for us. We're a small party but growing. It largely depends what happens in the campaign, Mike. I mean, for a small party like us, a general election is a major opportunity to get our message across and to get better known. Our membership usually doubles or trebles during general elections, so I'm very optimistic. And you know, we are offering the public something that isn't there now, you know, which is a sensible sort of patriotic left of centre economics, a bit of trade. You've got to reindustrialise. A lot of the problems we're going to talk about today on things like benefits are caused long-term by deindustrialisation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been talking to people all week about this kind of thing because we had data that came from the Department of Work and Pensions earlier in the week about particular cities. I don't know if you heard us talking about it in Manchester, in Blackpool, in Glasgow, in Liverpool, in Middlesbrough, places where, you know, there are jobs available, but where the out-of-work benefits sort of numbers are as much as a quarter of the working population, which is ridiculously high.
It's horrific, yeah, and I'm very, very glad that this issue is finally getting into the public realm. Michael Simmons and Fraser Nelson have done some good work at The Spectator highlighting it. We talk about it all the time because what we've been running in this country, I mean, you know, as you know, there are over 5 million people on out-of-work benefits in this country, and the number and the cost is growing. You can't ignore this. And I think what we've been running for probably 30, 40 years is actually quite a dangerous model, which has got worse. The model is focus on services in London South East and then toss a biscuit to the rest of the country. But if you go to places like Humberside, or as you say, Middlesbrough, this is a different country to the South East. We've deindustrialized. And as you say, Mike, if you look at the list of major cities where adults claiming out-of-work benefits represent, you know, between 20% and up to 25% of the population, they're all places where we've deindustrialized. And loss of manufacturing, it's totally self-defeating in the end. You can't just make wealth in the South and just pay benefits to the North. You've got to get the North working.
Exactly right, and you can't just then go, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll plant some kind of government department there because that will be fine. They've tried that with the DVLA in Swansea. They've done it with tax offices around the country. You know, I mean, it's a sort of it's a band-aid, isn't it? It's a luster plaster put over a gaping wound. All it does is sort of basically employ a load of people who might otherwise have moved to get a job, as opposed to employing people who can't move to get a job.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, there are two basic methods of industrial policy, of jobs employment policy in this respect that governments have gone for. You know, one is work to the workers and the other is workers to the work. You know, get on your bike was the Tebbit thing. Yeah. I think I'm not against the government doing some of this. I think, you know, Darlington probably will benefit from some of the tax office people being posted there and so on. So I'm not against it. But the big thing, honestly, the big thing we need to think about as a country is to make more here and buy British and think about the trade policy. Think about what you're buying. I mean, I would urge the public to think about it. No government, Mike, has ever talked about this for years. We just don't. You go to a country like Australia, you'll see on the products, proudly made in Australia, or Arnott's biscuits, exporting for Australia.